It's Prophet Tom here, and we're starting the day in the Word of God. We're looking at today in coming into an understanding of the Creator who created us, the environment that we live in, and how to overcome that environment. Today we are experiencing things that we have never experienced. We read the Word of God, and we have done this over the years of our experience as Christians, and yet we haven't really understood the depths of the stories that are within the Word of God. For example, Israel in Egypt under the extreme bondage that they went through for hundreds of years and then eventually cried out for God. Daniel being thrown into a lion's den, all because of his faith. The children of Israel, as they came out of Egypt and went through the wilderness and cried out because there was no water or no food. Many of us, we read these stories but don't fully understand it because, we haven't been through it. And yet, in 2020, we are now going through it. Thousands have died this year because of the coronavirus. Millions have been affected with this dreadful virus. Fear has spread throughout the world, and many of the stories that we read in the Word of God are now becoming reality to us. And as with men of old, they question God. Why, God, have you allowed us to go through these things in Egypt? Why, God, have I been thrown into the lion's den? Why, God, have I had to be thrown into the furnace fire, and so forth and so on? And even Gideon, who challenged God and said, well, where is the God that did these things? And today this has happened in probably nearly every believer's life, a questioning of God. And the reason we question God is because we don't really know God. We know about God. We've had some kind of experience, but we haven't gone into the depth of God that God desires us to go into. A candle cannot burn without fire. We can't be on fire for God unless we have a revelation of God. So a candle cannot burn without fire, nor can a man live the way God designed him, that is supernaturally, without knowing God. How much of God today do you know? To live in the supernatural involves an understanding of how and why you were created. To live in the supernatural involves an understanding of your Creator, the one who created you, the one who called you, the one who equipped you. Right from the outset of time itself, God created the heavens and the earth. And in Genesis 1 and verse 1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Let me tell you, the Spirit of God is hovering over you right now, waiting for God to say, it's time for Tom to move deeper into the supernatural. In Genesis 1:26, it says, And God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over the cattle of the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the likeness of God he created her. He male and female. He created them. Then God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion. This is what God did. This is how God created man. Chapter 2 and verse 7 says that God formed man from the dust and breathed life into him, and man became a spirit being. Genesis chapter 3 tells us that every day God fellowshiped. He walked in the garden. When was the last time that you fellowshipped with God? When was the last time that you had a revelation of God? Psalms, as we begin to come to a close, and we'll pick this up more tomorrow, but Psalms 139 and verse 14 says this: I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. God made you. God took a mold. It's never been used for anyone else. He made you. And David here says these powerful words: I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am specially made. I have a calling. I have a destiny. But, we need to understand the Creator, to understand the revelation that we have been wonderfully and fearfully made, that we have been, time was, God got down in the Garden of Eden and he formed man from the dust. God did it. And before your mother conceived you, before your mom fell pregnant, God went into that womb and he formed you. Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 5 says that before you were born, I knew you. I have called you to be a prophet. That is the revelation for each and every one of us today. God has formed you. God has called you. So, we need to have that revelation, that understanding. We need to know, to live in the supernatural. It's not the manifestations, it's the revelations. To live in the supernatural involves an understanding of how and why you were made. To live in the supernatural involves an understanding of the one who created you. And that's what we're looking at this week. You were created in the image of God. What is that? Well, we'll pick that up again tomorrow. But as you go through this coronavirus, as you go through the challenges of life, and especially the next few years, you need to come to an understanding of the one who made you. And then you will live and abide and work through the supernatural. Well, this is Prophet Tom. God bless you. Have a great day.